After gaining independence in 1991, Ukraine faced economic collapse, corruption, and political struggles throughout the 1990s. Oligarchs gained power, and President Leonid Kuchma's rule was marked by corruption and media suppression. In 2004, the rigged election of pro-Russian Viktor Yanukovych led to the Orange Revolution, forcing a re-election that pro-Western Viktor Yushchenko won. However, his presidency disappointed many, and Yanukovych returned to power in 2010, strengthening ties with Russia. In 2013, his rejection of an EU trade deal sparked mass protests, leading to the Euromaidan revolution. By February 2014, violent crackdowns failed, and Yanukovych fled, marking a turning point for Ukraine's future. Let's travel to the history. After declaring independence in August 1991, Ukraine held a national referendum to confirm the decision. The result was overwhelming. 92% of Ukrainians voted for independence. Even in Crimea and eastern Ukraine, the majority supported breaking away from the Soviet Union. Leonid Kravchuk was elected as Ukraine's first president. Ukraine was free, but what did that mean? The Soviet Union had provided jobs, resources, and a system. Now, Ukraine had to build a new country from scratch. When Ukraine left the Soviet Union, it inherited a collapsed economy, factories shut down, and inflation soared. The Ukrainian currency, hryvnia, lost value rapidly. Corruption spread as former Soviet elites took control of industries. By the mid-1990s, millions of Ukrainians were unemployed, and crime increased. Some people longed for the Soviet days, when life was hard but predictable. During the 1990s, a small group of wealthy businessmen, known as oligarchs, took control of Ukraine's major industries, including oil and gas, steel and coal, television and media. These oligarchs influenced politics, bribed officials, and ensured that only they benefited from Ukraine's new economy. In 1994, Leonid Kuchma became Ukraine's second president. He promised economic reforms, closer ties to Europe, a stronger democracy, but instead, Kuchma's presidency was marked by massive corruption, suppression of free media, scandals, including the murder of journalists. By the early 2000s, Ukrainians were growing angry. They wanted change. In 2004, Ukraine held a presidential election between Viktor Yushchenko, a pro-Western, reformist candidate, Viktor Yanukovych, backed by Russia and the oligarchs. The election was rigged in Yanukovych's favor. Reports of ballot stuffing, voter intimidation, government fraud. Angered by the stolen election, millions of Ukrainians took to the streets, wearing orange, Yushchenko's campaign color, and demanding a new vote. After weeks of protests, the Ukrainian Supreme Court declared the election invalid and ordered a rerun. Result: Yushchenko won. The people had defended democracy, but the fight wasn't over. Ukrainians expected Yushchenko to bring reforms and prosperity. Instead, his presidency was marked by infighting among politicians, slow economic progress, disillusionment among citizens. By 2010, many Ukrainians felt betrayed. And in a shocking twist, Viktor Yanukovych, the same man they had protested against, won the presidency in a democratic election. Once in power, Yanukovych strengthened ties with Russia, cracked down on free media, ignored the demands of the 2004 revolution. But the biggest betrayal came in 2013, when Ukraine was set to sign a historic trade deal with the European Union. Millions of Ukrainians wanted closer ties to Europe. At the last moment, Yanukovych rejected the deal under pressure from Russia's president, Vladimir Putin. Instead, he signed an economic agreement with Russia. This decision outraged Ukrainians. It was clear that Russia was controlling their future, and they refused to accept it. On November 21, 2013, students and activists gathered in Maidan Square in Kiev, demanding a European future, an end to corruption, Yanukovych's resignation. At first, the protests were peaceful. But then, Yanukovych sent riot police to attack protesters. A nation rises up. The police brutality backfired. Instead of scaring people, it ignited a revolution. By January 2014, Maidan Square was filled with hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians. Some even built makeshift barricades and fought back against government forces. The final showdown, in February 2014, Yanukovych ordered snipers to fire on protesters. Over 100 people were killed. But instead of stopping the revolution, this act sealed Yanukovych's fate. On February 22, 2014, Yanukovych fled Ukraine, escaping to Russia. Parliament declared him removed from power. The Euromaidan revolution was not just about politics, it was about Ukraine's identity. Would Ukraine remain under Russian influence, or would it finally embrace a European future? The revolution ended with hope, but new dangers were just beginning. In Chapter 8, we'll explore Russia's invasion of Crimea, the war in Donbass, and Ukraine's ongoing fight for sovereignty.